Thank you all for joining. I gave a few words about the theme for today: samadhi, concentration, calm abiding, and seeing one thing through. And so the meditation practice will also be around those themes, or at least the theme of cultivating this sense of samadhi, calm abiding, concentration. So let's get started. So if you haven't already, please find that comfortable position for meditation today. It'll be about a 30-minute practice. And if you're seated, finding a position of the body that really is a balance of being upright and feeling at ease. It's important in the beginning of a meditation to really spend those few moments focusing on your posture. May be helpful to even rock a little back and forth and side to side. A posture that really allows you to arrive in the body. Soft gaze of your eyes away from the screen. And sensing into that balance of alertness and ease, however it is for you in this moment. And the more you practice, the more you develop an uprightness in your back, your neck, while establishing a sense of groundedness and balance in the body. Feeling your legs, your feet touching the ground, your chair or a cushion. And taking a few deep breaths to fully arrive in this moment. Perhaps the deepest breaths of the day. And just noticing the effect of your mind body settling in a little bit more. And gathering and bringing your attention inward into the body. And allowing as best as you can the thoughts and memories in your mind just to sit back for a while in the back of your attention. And in the foreground, the mindfulness of the body just sitting. Slowing down. The body sensing, listening, breathing. Beginning to cultivate a calm abiding. Sensing what is well in your body right now. What is well? Your breathing. Appreciating the quality of gathering, of collectedness. And exploring what it is to breathe into the entire body. Body expanding with in-breath, relaxing with out-breath. Noticing the body breathing itself. Really noticing. You can be mindful of this. Mindful of the small pause at the end of the out-breath, in the beginning of the next breath. The body's doing this. Softening inhabiting the body wholeheartedly. Just breathing in and breathing out, calming the mind, body, heart, not holding on to anything that arises in the mind. Just allowing the mind, the heart to settle into the body. And breathing in, brightening the mind, brightening the heart. Appreciating the collectedness, this unification of the body and the mind in this moment, with a sense of ease, calm abiding. And just simply notice anything that may be pulling you away from this calm abiding. Noting them as distractions. Thoughts of the past, planning for the future. Just noticing. And not grasping or pushing away. And continuing to bring your attention inward and down into the body. And just noticing if there are any places of tension or struggle in the body or the mind that's pulling you away from this moment. And breathing in care and compassion for those places. Not pushing away, perhaps tending to. Building space around any tension or struggle with kindness and compassion. Really allowing a softening. Allowing those places to be touched by your own care and kindness. You may be hearing sounds like a bird chirping or rain. And just noticing the sounds as they rise and fall. They're also part of this present moment. Coming and going without attachment, without judgment. Just being in this present moment with a sense of ease, calm abiding. And breathing in care and compassion for any of the places in the body or the mind where you still may feel a sense of tension or struggle, allowing those places to be touched by your own care and kindness. Breathing in and breathing out. And on your next exhalation, sending out your care and well-wishing to the others gathered here today. Breathing out your care and well-wishing to all of those gathered here today. And then extending that care and well-wishing to all beings. May all beings experience peace. May all beings experience care and kindness. Touching all beings without exception. Shining and radiating the kindness from your heart out into the world. And may you also receive the kindness and care from others. And a deep bow, thanking you for your practice today. And when you're ready, very slowly opening your eyes and sensing the space around you. Thank you. Today I prepared a short Dharma talk on Samadhi and seeing one thing through. And just to begin, I'll just say a few words about each of these phrases, if you're not familiar, or even if you're familiar, it might be a new way. So Samadhi, as I mentioned before, is the sense of calm abiding. And maybe you felt that in today's guided meditation when we were taking some time to cultivate concentration and samadhi. And then the other theme I want to pull in is seeing one thing through. And in the Zen tradition, this could be also referenced as a wholehearted practice. So I know many of us, including myself, all of this is including myself, experience moments when attention is scattered and our meditation practice kind of feel fragmented, especially when we get up off of the cushion and we go back into our lives, into the world, and our daily business. And so we may see and experience a life in a world today that is, where the suffering's quite vivid, where breaking news seems to be happening every minute. And we also care deeply. And so there could be this sense of being pulled in many directions. And so this is where this these concepts or phrases and practices around samadhi and seeing one thing through can be helpful. And so the questions that I'm posing today that you can consider throughout this talk are the following. What does it mean to see one thing through without becoming too scattered or exhausted? And how does samadhi help us serve in the world with more steadiness and compassion? So let's begin again with samadhi and a description of what it is. And so it might sound mysterious, this term, samadhi. And in Buddhist teachings, as I mentioned, it's said to mean gather together or collect together. So that's the translation. An undivided mind heart is another translation. And samadhi, when it's cultivated, is said to still or calm the mind. And that helps us, in our insight practice, create these conditions for insight. And then in the study of the Eightfold Path, the Buddhist Eightfold Path, you can see this role for what's called right concentration and how right concentration helps bring about this insight. Seeing for ourselves the nature of our own true being as it relates to impermanence, the ever-changing conditions, as it relates to suffering or dukkha, and also as it relates to no self. We also come to understand how grasping, grasping to desires and beliefs, sense perceptions, the body helps. Well, that doesn't help. This grasping ends up fueling or sustaining our suffering, our discontent, our stress. And so samadhi is not escape from this. It's not disassociation. It's not like a rare spiritual achievement that's cut off from the world. But it is a settled presence that allows the body and the mind and our intention to stop pulling us in different directions. It helps us meet the world more fully. And so just a couple examples, Thai teacher Ajahn Chah, he talks about cultivating enough calm and steadiness or samadhi to allow for insight. And he said, the deeper the calm, the deeper the insight. And see how that resonates for you. The deeper the calm, the deeper the insight. And also, here's this quote I like by meditation teacher Christina Feldman. And she says, one of the great arts of meditative life is developing the capacity for a deep sense of inner collectedness and its cultivation. The journey to calm collectedness or samadhi is not easy. It will be a journey through the hindrances and our unique psychological and survival-oriented conditioning. So she's describing the cultivation of samadhi as not easy. And we may be distracted by not knowing how to skillfully relate to the 5 hindrances. And just for those who may need a reminder, the 5 hindrances are desire. That's that grasping. Aversion, anxiety, doubt, and low mental energy. So these hindrances can make cultivating samadhi challenging. So we practice, like we did today, to recognize when these hindrances might be present. You know, this is what's pulling us away from the moment. And when hindrances might be absent, when we're sensing a calm abiding. And when the hindrances arise, we practice to notice them, their effects, the impact on the mind and the body, and then to soften around them, sort of building the space. And sometimes we allow, right? We let them be until they change and pass. We can bring in that curiosity, gentle remedies like the deep breathing or the loving kindness. Yeah, spending some time trying to get beneath the causes and conditions of these desires or aversion. And we can do that with samadhi. Without samadhi, this sense of calm abiding and collectedness, when we're out off the cushion in our daily interactions with others, without the samadhi, we can become more reactive versus responsive. You know, reacting versus responding. Responding in a way that's calm and responsive to the situation. And then once we bring this calm abiding into our daily activities and business, we may not be so triggered, right, by the breaking news every minute. We may move from moment to moment, urgency to urgency, without losing our center or quickly burning through our energy and becoming burned out. So, in a nutshell, that is samadhi, developing a deeper calm for deeper insight. And now let's consider this other phrase I brought up, seeing one thing through. And seeing one thing through is really this sense of being present with each moment, not turning away when things become difficult or clinging to things or experiences when they feel good. So seeing one thing through doesn't mean clinging, for example, to like one job in your life, one role, or one identity forever. It doesn't mean striving. It doesn't mean perfectionism. And it doesn't mean forcing life through one narrow form. It does mean continuity or returning, staying faithful to what matters most. It's more about a sustained sincerity, a steady return, and a willingness to begin again. So I've been thinking a lot about this concept of seeing one thing through, having a um, whole-bodied experience, one moment at a time. Um, and I practice this during my morning meditation, where I sit out on my back porch and I'm sitting and just noticing the sun rising between the trees, the spring, just listening to the chorus of birds singing one after another. And then just noticing as I'm just sitting, so I'm seeing this one thing through, I'm just sitting. I'm having attempting to have a whole bodied experience from moment to moment. Um, and just noticing, I can notice that like my planning mind for the day slows down. The sense of self, me, my, mine, softens a little bit. Um, as I'm blending into this landscape of the sun rising, the soundscape of the bird chorus. And Zen Master Dogen Zenji talks about accepting this body, this mind, and everything we encounter as our life in this moment, as one seamless reality. And so for me, it's experiencing doing just this one thing, just sitting on the back porch, noticing what's around me, and samadhi, this collected presence, um, the sense of an undivided mind body. And Dogen, once again, Dogen Zenji, was pointing to our life as whole samadhi. Now, what does that mean? I think it can mean that each and everything we do in our daily life becomes one manifestation of our practice, one moment after the other. And another quote from a Zen master, Shunryu Suzuki, San Francisco Zen Center, is the founder. And he says, when you do something, when you do something, you should be completely involved in it. Okay, so I said a lot on samadhi and seeing one thing through. And I'd like to share just a few reflection questions, just taking a moment where you are and just reflecting on these questions. Are there places in your life where you're being called not to drift? Places in your life where you're being called not to drift, but to be present, to seeing one thing through. And what changes when you give yourself fully to one thing, even for one breath? And we can also ask how this practice of calm abiding, samadhi, can support us seeing one thing through. So there's this other term from Dogen, and he talks about continuous practice. And it's not anything dramatic. It's not a dramatic breakthrough. It's not a perfect moment. It's simply continuous practice. If I can even say simply, it's continuous practice. And this matters because some of us may think or approach seeing one thing through as requiring a lot of force or some level of heightened energy. But, and this is interesting, it often means return, a quiet return, seeing one thing through, not forcing anything, but returning again and again, sitting down again, listening again, taking up a difficult conversation again, and how we can come back to care. We can come back to our breath. We can come back to our vow or deep intention that shapes our life. And not in a grand gesture, but in a continuous practice, seeing one thing through. And another reflection question. Is there anything that you need to return to, perhaps with less drama and more steadiness, more intention? And I just want to sort of come to a ending shortly with a personal example in my own life, where the outer forms of my professional work have changed many times over the past 25 years. The institutions I've worked for changed. The sectors I've worked in have changed. Job titles have changed. My last job change, however, I did not see coming. I was one of the many thousands doged, if you will, from a public service position. And yet, amidst all of the changes, there's been the through line, a through line that I can recognize. And that's a commitment, an intention, a deep intention in my professional life to human rights, to dignity of all workers. I work in as a labor rights specialist. And this commitment has taken different forms: legal and policy work, multilateral engagement, government service. And it's continuing. I'm continuing to work on social responsibility in seafood and seafood globally, global supply chains. Outer forms changed, but the sense of deeper commitment to the work of human rights, thankfully, remains. And in that sense, the jobs changed, but the deep intention has remained consistent. And I think many of us know this and have examples in our own lives. We may not be called to repeat one form forever, yet we may be called to stay close to what is deepest and truest in our own lives, even as the form changes. So, another example of seeing one thing through with wholeheartedness. And another reflection question is, what is the through line in your own life? Especially in today's world where not only are our opinions needed, our engagement, our intensity to do good. What's also needed is our grounded presence, our discernment, our trustworthy commitment. And without samadhi, our service can become reactive. And without the deep intention, seeing one thing through, our service in the world, in our lives, can become fragmented. But when we bring these concepts of samadhi and deep intention, seeing one thing through together, our actions in the world we become steadier, perhaps less ego-driven, more sustainable, more intimate with the suffering without collapsing into it. So to wrap up the talk today, seeing one thing through is not about forcing our lives into a single shape. It's about returning again and again to what's most true, to what's most compassionate, to what's most worth giving our life to. And samadhi gathers us into that return. Seeing one thing through with intention gives us direction. And from there, our activities or our service can become less about ourselves and more about relieving suffering where we can, to the best of our ability. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for your practice.